Hi, thanks for joining us today. I'm Don from Fidelity, and I am so lucky to be here with three of my colleagues today. We've got Kristen from North Carolina, we've got Chad, also from North Carolina, and Kate from Salt Lake. So we're actually here in Boston today, so it's good to see all of you in person. And we've all been here for the ERG Summit. What ERG stands for is Employee Resource Groups, and that's what we're here to talk about today. A little bit more about Employee Resource Groups, what they are, what they mean to you as employees of Fidelity, and really just to give people an introduction into life at Fidelity. So let me just give a little bit of introduction on ERGs. At Fidelity, diversity and inclusion is so important. For us, it's really just about how we're showing up for our customers, right? It's, we've got to reflect our customers. We have to understand what they want. We have to understand what their life is like. And for us to be able to do that, we have to have people, we have to have talent that represent different backgrounds, different experiences, different perspectives, different points of view. So the employee resource groups really help Fidelity employees who are of similar experiences, similar backgrounds, to come together, to really share their experiences, network, and actually drive a lot of value for the business too. As of last year, 14,000 of us are members of one ERG or another. That's a huge number. So that's 1 in 3 Fidelity employees. And we have 6 employee resource groups. We also have other networking groups. We've got groups that represent our Black and Latino communities. We have an Asian employee resource group, which is self-explanatory, I think. We've got Pride that represents our LGBT plus community. We've got 5 that represents military veterans who have served our country. We've got Aspire. Actually, I talked about Aspire already.
That was, yeah.
Right.
African-American Latino.
And we've got Enable that represents disabled people. And we've also got
The Women's Leadership Group.
the Women's Leadership Group,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
There are also other special interest groups, as we call them, Women in Technology, Working Parents, Young Professionals Network. So a ton of networks, a ton of groups for Fidelity associates of all backgrounds and cultures and experiences and different worlds. Yep. But we all come together to really drive the best experience for our customers and for our employees too. So that was a long introduction. I just wanted to kind of go around the table and have all of you introduce yourselves. Maybe we'll start with you, Kristen. You're from Aspire.
Yes, so Kristen Reddick, I'm from Aspire, which is the African American Latino Employee Resource Group. I'm out of the North Carolina site, and Aspire is basically a place to create a community for our African American and Latino employees, but also anyone of that interest. And we've been around at Fidelity for about 7 years now, and I've been with Fidelity for over 10 years, actually. Yeah.
That's a really good point. You don't have to be Black or Latino to join Aspire. You don't have to be LGBT to join Pride. Like all employees are welcome, whether you just want to learn more about the community or you're an ally. That's exactly. A great point. And Chad, you're wearing a Marine Corps tie today, even though we said casual.
I had to represent. So my name is Chad Johnson. I'm in the Veterans ERG. I'm also based in North Carolina. I've been with Fidelity for about 15 years, and I've been with 5 since the beginning. One of the great things about being in a ERG with other veterans is that every once in a while we can get together and we can kind of share some of our stories from our time when we were in the military together, and it gives us an opportunity to bounce some ideas off each other, whether it's for career or you're handling a difficult situation and I want to kind of get mad or something like that. I can always talk to somebody and say, okay, how should I handle this more appropriately? So it helps me kind of get back to center and be more professional. So it's been a really good, really nice ride along the way.
Wonderful. And Kate, you're from Pride.
I am Kate, based in Salt Lake City, Utah, representing our Pride group today. I love Pride. It helps me just bring my whole authentic self to work. It helps me bring my queer community from outside the office, in the office, vice versa. Again, the cool thing about our resource groups, we're all allies of each other. So even though you may align with one or two or just a few of the groups more directly in your life, you get to join all of them and just meet a ton of people and really help your career and personal life.
And we talked about all the employee resource groups coming together over the past 2 days. And there was a lot of talk about intersectionality, right? That as a person, you can have multiple identities. You know, you can be a gay woman, and therefore there are a lot of associates who are members of our women's leadership group and also members of Pride. Are any of you members of more than one employee resource group?
I am.
There you go. I am too, actually, so full disclosure. So what other employee resource groups do you represent?
Oh,
Are you a member of at least?
I was going to say, I believe I'm a member of all of the employee resource groups, even some of the special interest groups. I get emails from all of them.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons why I decided to join all of the ERGs is going back to what Kate said. You know, I am an ally for all of my underrepresented, fellow colleagues. And I think being a part of all of the employee resource groups helps me get a better grasp of the world as a whole as well. And then it allows me to be a voice for Five. You know, I had a chance to meet Chad from, doing, I think it was a membership drive, and our tables were side by side. And Chad was like, "Are you with Five?" And I said, "No, you should sign up." Oh, okay.
Yeah, you are now.
And so I signed up for Five. And from that, I'm able to help support him when they have an event and vice versa. So I think it is important, whether or not you identify with the group or not, to think about becoming an ally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What about you, Kate?
All of them too. So every single group actually impacts me personally, or that of my immediate family or close community. But again, just be an ally for everyone. It really expands your network, your point of view, your diversity of thought. Absolutely.
And that's such an important point. Sometimes it's about learning other groups and other communities, not for yourself, but for your family and friends too. And you learn so much, and you take home so much from these employee resource groups.
Yeah, and to kind of back that point up, I think for me it was about how do I better align myself with the values that the other ERGs bring to the table, and how do I more closely walk in their shoes. Like, I didn't grow up, I was a white, middle class individual when I grew up. I didn't grow up in a black community or in an Asian community, so in order for me to truly understand how some of the struggles that those folks may have faced, like, I have to spend time with them, and I have to really get to know them better, so that when they have struggles in the workplace or outside the workplace, that I can help better understand and help them through some of those things. And it really does help broaden horizons and build friendships and things like that. So it's been a tremendous asset and resource to me as an individual and as a professional.
We're also great resources for, again, all of the employees. We have people who will have a child who's transitioning or a sibling who's coming out, and we're able to help them through that process, answer their questions, connect them, again, inside work, but also outside. What are your local resources? So we take advantage of a lot, but we also make sure that we're out there for everyone and giving back.
Yeah, and that's good. So going off on a tangent a little bit, we're all Fidelity employees. We've been here, many of us, many, many years. I think I have like the least tenure of all.
How many years are you?
Less than 5. So
4.5.
Oh, okay. We might be close. There might be a competition. What has been your favorite moment working at Fidelity? Maybe not moment. What's just your?
That's not a fair question.
What's your favorite part about working at Fidelity?
That I can answer.
Okay, good.
It is by far my colleagues. Fidelity does a great job of hiring awesome people. And these are people who I have relationships even outside of work, because you spend so much time with your colleagues at work. So you build more close-knit relationships sometimes than your very own family. And I can't tell you how many long-lasting relationships I've made from working here at Fidelity. But again, it's the colleagues, it's the people. Yeah.
Yeah, I second that. It's definitely the people, but it's also the Like, I came to Fidelity right out of the Marine Corps, so I was like less than 30 days removed. I moved to Raleigh and I interviewed on a Thursday and I was hired on a Tuesday. But for me, I didn't know anything about investing at all. But through all of the resources and things that Fidelity offers to the associates, the reality is I'm probably going to be able to retire by the age of 55. And that is such a comforting feeling, knowing that I knew nothing about investing, but because of strategic advisors and things that they offer us as employees, that dream is going to become a reality. And for me, I'm on that downslide, so I'm like really happy and I'm
You're
excited.
You're only 25. What are you talking about?
Oh, right, yeah, 25.
Yeah.
Oh. Kate, what about you? Don't say people. 5 seconds.
The people are great, as you just heard.
Clearly nobody's listening to me, but okay.
No, honestly, the career impact has been incredible. Again, no background in finance when I started at Fidelity. Started on the phones helping our customers. Fidelity licensed me. Our Series 7 and 63 are the financial licenses that you get. I'm in tech now. I'm learning how to code. I'm doing development. I'm doing UX design. I've discovered all these passions, and Fidelity's helped me get the tools that I need.
You probably never thought you would end up in technology.
Oh, it's crazy. I love it.
I never thought I would end up in finance.
And then where are you going to be in 5 years? Like, I can't wait to find out.
Insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. So moving the conversation back to ERGs, we talked about what's your favorite part of being at Fidelity. You think about 4.5 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago when you first joined Fidelity. What was the feeling like? Was it exciting? Was it nerves? Overwhelming? And then to add to that question, how did employee resource groups help you get over any kind of emotions you may have had about joining Fidelity?
You want me to take this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I literally joined right out of the military, and my colleagues at the would would say I was rough around the edges. I stood with my arms crossed a lot. I walked down the hall like a drill instructor, and so I needed to loosen up. I was very fortunate that the group of individuals that I was with at the time were also former military, so they kind of understood what I was going through. But when 5 started, it brought a lot of folks that I didn't know were veterans into the same space, and it really allowed me to sit down and have conversations and say, again, how would I better handle this situation? And there was a lot of senior leadership that came in and did that for us. And now I'm in the mentoring space, so I have 7 mentees. I've been mentoring for over 10 years, and I provide the same kind of experience for them. When they get out, I help them with resumes and how to be professional, what it means to have a dress suit and show up to work in an interview and not stare through the person because that's not looked upon favorably. So things like that, it's really given me an opportunity to hone my own skills, but then also allowed me to give back in the same exact space.
Pay it forward.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome.
What about you?
I'm trying to think back. You said 10 years. I have a blessed memory. So I'm trying to think back, how did I feel coming into Fidelity? And I think for me, the way I came into Fidelity, my cousin worked for Fidelity. So I had family within Fidelity. So I didn't feel out, on the outskirts or anything of that nature. But Aspire wasn't even around when I started with Fidelity, but I gravitated towards what I knew. And I think by the time Aspire came about, I was looking for more of that community and more of people that I can network with and connect with. When I started with Fidelity, I started as a contract worker, so I was really just focused on making sure that I stay with Fidelity, go green, right? I wanted to become permanent with Fidelity. And so I think back to if Aspire was around at that point in time, all of the resources that might have been available to me to be able to help me hone those skills. But now that we have Aspire, now that I'm a lead within Aspire, I too have some mentees and I'm helping to lead and guide and give those resources and give that backing and support on how to navigate their careers here within Fidelity.
So it's also a story of giving back too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kate, what about you? 4.5 years ago, you must remember. I will tell you, I can't remember things from yesterday, but
there's that too. Yeah. Honestly, I was terrified to start at Fidelity. I didn't really see myself reflected. But as soon as I started, I had queer mentors who sought me out, took me under their wing. I had allies reach out. Just absolutely fantastic that you can be a queer professional, and I love giving back. We actually volunteer a lot with our resource groups, so able to go out in the local community and let kids like me, at even just young ages, know that they can have a future and they can do whatever that they want. Yeah.
And it's so important you said that you have people seek you out.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we talk about how you've got to take the initiative to join ERGs, employee resource groups. You've got to take the initiative to network. But the people here are so great that if they see that you need like a helping hand to get to the next step, they will reach out to you. Like it's not like you're sitting there on your own and feeling like you're completely lost and everyone's just like, off you go, do whatever you need to do to succeed, you know?
Oh, I can't tell you how many sidebar conversations I've had just walking past someone like, did you know that we have Aspire? And we'll have a small chat, and then as soon as I get back to my desk, I send them a quick email as follow-up to our conversation. Here's the link to Aspire for you to be able to join. So
She follows up.
and I follow up.
Oh, Chad, by the way, you
Right.
wanted this? I'm like,
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And we talked a little bit about this, you know, and employee resource groups helping you sort of get over the first day or first week jitters. What other sort of personal development, career development, benefit or value have you guys taken from your participation in employee resource groups?
Leading with influence. For me, my current role within Fidelity is a team lead, so I lead a team, but we all serve the same manager, but I need to be able to hone the skill of directing my associates and giving them coaching and use my power of influence to get them to the place that I want them to be. And I think Aspire has helped me hone that skill because it's the same thing. Everyone who is a part of this employee resource group, now a business resource group, they do it on their own time. This is all volunteer work. So how can you force a volunteer to volunteer more? You have to lead through influence, and I think that's a skill that Aspire has helped me hone.
Yeah, and that's a really important point because employee resource groups are, we have the blessing, if you will, from the company, but these are self-organized groups. These are people who are passionate about their community, their experiences, and they want to share and they want to help other people, and that's how, that's what powers these employee resource groups. Chad?
I think it's networking. Like the word in and of itself, we always say you got to network, you have to network, but we don't really teach people how to do it effectively. And I think being in an ERG, it's natural, right? It becomes a conversation more than just you're in it for something to get out of it. You develop relationships, and then out of those relationships, other relationships are developed. And the next thing you know, it's kind of like this big spider web of contacts that you have to be able to get things done. And most of that probably never would have been possible had I not gotten into a lead role where my exposure to other leads and other ERGs has really helped me to expand the capabilities of what I can do in the workplace and in some cases outside the workplace as well.
And that's important because it's sort of, it's not like you sign up for a networking class. Like there's no, sign up for this training and we'll teach you how to network and how to hold your glass, how to hold, avoid champagne, all that.
Right.
But it's getting out there and learning and sort of like the employee resource groups giving you a safe environment. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because, we off the side, before we started, we talked a little bit about how Five gave you a safe space,
right,
if you will.
Well, I think one of the things is, you can be put in a position where, I like to call it failing forward, where if you fall down, you still went, a step forward and then you stood back up. And we give some folks an opportunity to maybe run an event or do something on a little bit smaller scale where maybe it wasn't successful by their standards, but they've learned from it and they get immediate feedback from their peers and from others. And it allows them to it didn't really cost Fidelity anything other than the time. So it wasn't that they had this massive business decision that went south. They may have, learned a lot from it, and then the next time around, they're, much more prepared to handle that adversity as it comes. So I think that's one of the things that also is kind of a sidebar that happens organically.
Kate, what about you in terms of what you think you've gotten out of being a member of an employee resource group?
I think the biggest skill, definitely leadership, but also advocacy. Joining Pride taught me how to advocate for myself, how to advocate for others. Turn that around and advocate for my career. Learn how to talk to directors or vice presidents, people that might be intimidating, especially if you're new to a company, an organization, a team. Just learning how to make sure that you know what you want and then find a strategic way to convey that and communicate that.
Yeah, I love that, because I sort of in the past had seen myself as a wallflower that like didn't know how to like advocate for yourself. So I totally relate to that. You know, the employee resource groups provide a lot of value to you as employees, as you develop, as you grow. Over the last 2 days, when we're here meeting with the other ERGs, we also talked about how the employee resource groups are actually providing value back to Fidelity as a business. It's kind of odd to think of employee resource groups that way, because I think when we say employee resource groups, people think networking events, champagne, cocktails, dinners. It's just a way of getting to know.
Were you a part of?
Great.
I want to
I guess
join.
I'm in the wrong one.
But it's moved like way past that. Like we were past that like years ago. Talk a little bit about how Aspire, Five, Pride helps Fidelity as a business.
So I just mentioned this a few minutes ago. I think it breaks down barriers. It allows us to have sometimes conversations that we otherwise may not have, but it also helps us build bridges. So although we sometimes have to be vulnerable, and nobody really likes to be vulnerable, but it gives you that opportunity to do that in and around your peers that understand what you're going through, and then it allows us to work to find a common solution to a potential problem. But it also helps to really understand another group of individuals that you probably wouldn't otherwise, all within the walls of where you work. But it goes much beyond that, because you take that same experience, and when you work with folks outside, whether we volunteer or it's just friends or family that maybe you had a hard time in that area with those individuals, it really has and does give the opportunity to learn and do those things. And then it goes, it reaches out really far and really allows us to be more inclusive of all of the people that we come in contact with.
And I think another way that we as ERGs, now BRGs, are able to help Fidelity is we're able to help them identify and tap the talent from diverse backgrounds that Fidelity may not be able to find on their own. We're able to identify those that may look like us or have similar backgrounds that we know are fit for the role. And this comes about from various ways, whether it be having discussions with hiring managers or working with our talent acquisition, or going to different festivals to represent Fidelity and letting them know, hey, Fidelity wants you. We are interested in hearing about you and you coming to work for us at Fidelity. What do you say? So those opportunities come about from our HR group partnering with the ERGs.
Yeah, because it all starts with the recruitment. If we want our employee population to look like what the country looks like, exactly, we've got to start with recruiting, right? And Kate, we talked over the past 2 days about Pride and Pride really helping Fidelity understand the LGBT plus market. Can
Absolutely.
you talk a little bit about that?
Well, and I love that comment, because the more diverse our employees and our business is, that's injecting diversity of thought, diversity of experiences into the business, because we're able to say, hey, this is what my community needs, this is what my girlfriend would want in a client experience or an account, and this is what we actually need to make sure that we're there for our customers. We represent our customers are diverse, we're diverse. We just advocate for each other.
And we can't assume that everyone has the same needs.
Absolutely.
And for us to have a diverse set of employees with from different walks of life, that way we can understand our customers better. Going back to maybe a more lighthearted or even more personal moments, what is maybe one moment in your entire participation with employee resource groups that's really stood out to you, that's really stuck with you? It can be an interaction, it can be a networking event. No champagne.
No champagne?
No champagne, no cocktails. Anything. One experience that has touched you so much.
Wow. Dawn, there you go, tapping into my memory. You want to start us, Kate?
I'm on it. No, I don't know. I may have mentioned it earlier, but being able to just be myself at work and having the, I guess, freedom and tools and even just skills to advocate, represent myself, the more you do that, the happier you are, the more successful you are. And I find that when I'm able to be vulnerable, thanks to my participation in these groups, I have this family, I have this network, people come up to me and I'm able to be a resource for them, and that's just the most rewarding thing if I can do anything to help somebody else and to share my journey.
That's great.
That
Tapping
wasn't
in.
fun, but
No, it's your personal reflection, right? So,
Yeah.
what about you?
This is okay.
Or do we get Chad?
You know
to
what?
go
So,
first?
you want to go first, Chad?
Yeah, I'll take a shot at it.
Okay.
So last summer, I got invited to a diversity and inclusion talk. It was a fast, rapid fire, so it was we all got 5 minutes, but there were several groups represented, and so I represented the veterans group, and it allowed me to, in a very broad spectrum, kind of speak to what I was doing at Fidelity and how being a lead for 5 helped me get to where I was in my career. And I think the coolest thing at the end was that everybody actually stood up and clapped and gave me a standing ovation. So that was one of those things that really stuck with me. I was like,
I'm getting chills.
I'm like, wow, you know. So that was definitely that moment for me where I was like, all right, we're making some difference, and I think that's important. So.
Nice. Well, I guess I should bring the fun aspect into it then, huh? So for Aspire, we do try to have a signature summertime cookout annually, and I think that is something that a lot of our members look forward to because it is an opportunity for us to engage with their families as well. So just planning those events and seeing the kids come out and seeing them play, and we're playing music and we're eating chips and hamburgers and just having a good time and enjoying each other. And I think that is something else that Fidelity ERGs provide, is that sense of community, the sense of home and family. Because where I live, I'm away from my family. My cousin no longer lives nearby, so Fidelity is my family. Yeah.
Well, we're going to be really offended if we don't get an invitation to that this summer.
You got it.
Just saying.
You got it.
Just saying.
Yeah,
Hashtag
that's
just
true.
saying. Okay. So, thank you so much for being here with me today, and thank you so much for watching. So, thank you, Kate. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you, Don.
If any of you have any questions, we'll be sure to get in touch with you and answer them after this. So thank you very much.
Is there time for one more closing thought? So it was brought up in our summit today that it's out of many, we're one.
Yeah.
So we're one Fidelity. But there's so many of us that make up that one Fidelity, but through the resource groups and through our ability to be more diverse and inclusive, it brings us together under one roof, and it makes us a much stronger company and stronger as individuals.
Chad, that was beautiful.
Well, what a way to finish. Thank you guys for joining again.